Last night, I was sitting with a calculator and an Excel spreadsheet, tallying up my corn expenses for this season. When I got to the last line and saw the final figure, I put down my pen and just stared at the wall for about 3 minutes. $917 per acre. $917. And the price of corn right now in mid-February 2026, $4.32 per bushel. I took the national average yield, 186 bushels per acre, multiplied it by the price, and got $804 in gross revenue, minus $917 in expenses, negative $113 per acre. I work the entire season, invest money, effort, time, and I end up in the red by more than $100 per acre. Today I'm going to dissect the real economics of corn in 2026. We'll account for every dollar of those 917. Seeds, fertilizer, chemicals, fuel, everything down to the cent. We'll find out why fertilizer prices have risen while corn prices have fallen, and how this turns a profitable crop into a black hole for money. We'll examine 3 scenarios, optimistic, realistic, and catastrophic, and calculate profit or loss in each. And at the very end, I'll answer the main question. Does it even make sense to plant corn in 2026, or is it better to just drop it and switch to something else? So watch to the end, because there I'll give you concrete numbers on alternatives that could be 2 to 3 times more profitable. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because I do these breakdowns with real numbers regularly, and this could actually save your budget next season. So let's start with the main thing. How much does it cost to grow 1 acre of corn in 2026? According to USDA data, the average cost of production is $917 per acre. That's $27 more than last year. And it's only 1% below the record level of $928 from 2022. In other words, expenses have barely declined from peak levels. They're stuck at historic highs. Let's break down these $917 by category. Let's start with seeds. Corn seeds in 2026 cost an average of $112.95 per acre. That's expensive. Why so expensive? Because most farmers buy hybrid seeds from major producers like Monsanto, Pioneer, and Syngenta. These seeds are genetically modified, resistant to pests, resistant to herbicides, and give better yields. But you have to pay for the technology. Plus, these seeds can't be reused. You need to buy them new every year. Farmers used to be able to save part of the harvest for seeds. Now that's impossible with modern hybrids. So every year you're paying these companies for seeds, and prices keep rising. Next comes fertilizer. And this is the most painful expense category. Fertilizer in 2026 costs $165.88 per acre. That's a monstrous sum. Let's break down why it's so expensive and what goes into it. Corn is a crop that devours nitrogen like crazy. For a normal yield, you need to apply approximately 150 to 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre. The main nitrogen fertilizers are anhydrous ammonia, urea, and UAN32. Prices for nitrogen fertilizers this year have risen due to several factors. First, geopolitics. Export restrictions from Russia, supply problems from China, all of this has reduced supply on the global market. Second, high natural gas prices, which is the main raw material for producing nitrogen fertilizers. Third, trade tariffs that have increased import costs. According to forecasts, anhydrous ammonia in 2026 averages $760 per ton, higher than the $744 last year. Urea has jumped to $620 per ton versus $530 last year. Monoammonium phosphate used for phosphorus nutrition cost $850 per ton. Everything's getting more expensive, and farmers can't do anything about it. You can't grow corn without nitrogen. Try to economize, apply less fertilizer. You'll get a poor yield and lose even more money. Next category, chemicals. That's herbicides, insecticides, fungicides. $49.47 per acre. Modern agriculture can't do without chemistry. Weeds compete with corn for nutrients and water. Pests devour crops. Diseases kill plants. Without chemical treatment, you'll lose 20 to 40% of your yield. So you have to spend. Glyphosate, atrazine 2,4-D, That's the standard herbicide set for corn, plus insecticides for corn borers and other pests. All of this costs money. Next, fuel, lubricants, and electricity. $25.41 per acre. Tractor for plowing, planting, cultivation, spraying, harvesting. All of this requires diesel. Diesel prices fluctuate, but currently average around $3 to $4 per gallon. An acre of corn takes approximately 6 to 8 gallons of diesel for all operations, plus electricity for grain drying, for running storage systems, machinery repair, $49.41 per acre, tractors break down, plows wear out, planters need parts replaced. And this is a constant expense category. There's no getting around it. The older your equipment, the more expensive the repairs. New equipment breaks down less, but you have to pay credit for it, which is also money. Contractor services, $38.20 per acre. Many farmers don't do all operations themselves. Some hire for harvesting, some for aerial spraying, some for grain drying. It's convenient, but costs money. Then come overhead expenses. Hired labor, $4.72 per acre. Cost of your own unpaid labor, $31.92 per acre. Yes, even your own labor needs to be counted as an expense because you could be working somewhere else during that time and earning money. This is called opportunity cost. Equipment and machinery depreciation, $180.38 per acre. This is the largest overhead expense category. Your tractor, combine, planter, plow, all of this loses value every year. Bought a tractor for $100,000, after 10 years it's worth $50,000. That's $5,000 depreciation per year. If you're working 200 acres with that tractor, that's $25 depreciation per acre just for the tractor. And there's also the combine, which costs 3 to 5 times more, plus land rent if the land isn't yours, plus property taxes, insurance, interest payments on loans. All of this adds up to the final sum of $917 per acre. Now let's look at the revenue side. The average corn yield in the U.S. in 2025 was a record, 186.5 bushels per acre. That's a phenomenal figure, the third record harvest in a row. Why are yields growing? Improved seed hybrids, precision farming using GPS, better agronomic methods, and simply good weather the past few years. But here's the problem. When supply grows and demand remains roughly at the same level, prices fall. That's basic economics, and that's exactly what's happening with corn right now. The price of corn in mid-February 2026 is around $4.32 per bushel. That's 13% lower than a year ago. And according to USDA forecasts, the average price for the marketing year could be around $4.10 per bushel. That's 37% lower than in 2022, when the price was $6.54. Let's calculate gross revenue. Yield of 186 bushels per acre times price of $4.32 equals $804. Gross revenue per acre. Subtract expenses of $917, negative $113 per acre. You work the entire season and end up in the red by more than $100 per acre. If you have 200 acres of corn, that's negative $22,600 for the season. Negative. But that's with average yield and current price. Let's look at 3 scenarios: optimistic, realistic, and catastrophic. Optimistic scenario. You're a good farmer, you have excellent land, you apply fertilizer correctly, the weather is favorable, your yield isn't 186, but 210 bushels per acre. This is realistically possible. There are farmers who consistently get such yields. The price of corn rises slightly by fall, let's say to $4.60 per bushel. Let's calculate. 210 times 460 equals $966 gross revenue minus $917. Expenses, that leaves $49 profit per acre. Hooray, in the black. But wait, $49 per acre, that's under ideal conditions. And that's before taxes. After taxes, you're left with $30 to $35. On 200 acres, that's $6,000 to $7,000 net profit for the entire season. For 6 months of hard work, stress, Risk. That's less than you'd earn working at a factory for minimum wage. Realistic scenario. Yield is average 186 bushels. Prices also average $4.10 as USDA forecasts. Let's calculate. 186 times 410 equals $762.60 gross revenue minus 917 expenses, negative $154.40 per acre. On 200 acres, that's negative $30,880. You went into debt for seeds and fertilizer, worked the entire season, and ended up in the red by more than $30,000. Catastrophic scenario. The weather failed. There was drought in July. Yield is 140 bushels per acre instead of 186. Prices fell even harder due to record global stocks. Corn is at $3.70 per bushel. Let's calculate. 140 times 370 equals $518 gross revenue minus 917 expenses, negative $399 per acre. On 200 acres, that's negative $79,800. That's catastrophe. That's bankruptcy. That's losing the farm. And you know what's scariest? The catastrophic scenario isn't that unlikely. Droughts happen. Prices fall. Corn stocks in the U.S. at the end of the season are forecast at 2,230,000,000 bushels, the highest in 7 years. When stocks are that huge, prices don't rise. On the contrary, they fall because supply exceeds demand. Plus, there's another political factor. The Trump administration launched a $12 billion farmer assistance program where corn gets $44.36 per acre. That's more than soy and wheat. Because of this, many farmers will plant corn even at low prices just to get these subsidies, and this will further increase supply and push prices down even more. A vicious circle. So what do? Does it even make sense to plant corn in 2026? Let's look at alternatives. Soybeans. The cost of producing soybeans in 2026 is forecast at $678.25 per acre. That's $239 cheaper than corn. Why cheaper? Because soybeans require much less nitrogen fertilizer. They fix nitrogen from the air themselves. Fertilizer for soybeans is only $57 per acre versus $165 for corn. Huge difference. The average soybean yield in 2025 was 53 bushels per acre. The price of soybeans is currently around $10 to $11 per bushel. Let's calculate gross revenue. 53 times 1050 equals $556.50, minus 678 expenses, negative $121.75 per acre. Also in the red, but less than corn. According to calculations by economists from the University of Illinois, the profitability difference between corn and soybeans in 2026 is $55 to $80 per acre in favor of soybeans. That is, soybeans are less unprofitable than corn. This doesn't mean soybeans are profitable, but they're less unprofitable. In a situation where both options are bad, you choose the lesser evil, wheat. Another option. Wheat requires lower production costs, but yield per acre is also lower and prices right now aren't great. Cotton. Production cost is $965 per acre, about the same as corn, but cotton is riskier and requires special equipment. What if you don't plant anything this year? Leave the land fallow, let it recover, or rent it out to another farmer. Land rent on average brings in $100 to $150 per acre per year. That's guaranteed income without risk and without work. If you own the land, renting it out might be more profitable than planting corn at a loss yourself. Or maybe switch to livestock. Keep cows, pigs, chickens. Diversify income. The problem is that livestock requires different equipment, different skills, different investments. It's not something you can do in one season or just sell the farm and go work in the city. I know it sounds harsh, but that's the reality for many small farmers right now. When you work in the red for 3 years straight, go into debt, can't make loan payments, sooner or later you have to make a tough decision. But there's another approach. Reduce expenses. You can't control corn prices, they're determined by the global market, but you can control your expenses. Let's look at where you can save from these $917. Seeds, $113 per acre. Can you save? You can buy cheaper varieties, not the top hybrids. The difference could be $20 to $30 per acre, but you risk getting lower yield. If yield drops by 10 to 15 bushels, you lose $40 to $60 in revenue. The savings don't make sense. Fertilizer, $166 per acre. Can you save? You can apply less fertilizer, but again, yield will drop. Corn without sufficient nitrogen gives poor yields. There's an option. More precise fertilizer application using GPS systems. Apply only where it's really needed based on soil analysis results. This can save 10 to 20% on fertilizer without losing yield. Savings of $20 to $30 per acre. But this requires equipment, and equipment costs money. Chemicals, $50 per acre. You can try mechanical cultivation instead of herbicides, but that requires more time and fuel. Questionable savings. Fuel, $25 per acre. You can save by working more efficiently, fewer passes over the field. No-till technology, minimum tillage, savings of $5 to $10 per acre. Realistic machinery repair, $50 per acre. You can do repairs yourself, not through the dealer. Savings of 20 to 30%. $10 to $15 per acre. Depreciation, $180 per acre. This is the biggest category. You can work with old equipment longer, not upgrade every 5 years. You can buy used equipment instead of new. Savings could be substantial, but you risk breakdowns at the wrong moment. If you optimize everything to the max, you can realistically reduce expenses by $50 to $70 per acre. That's something. If expenses aren't 917 but 850 and yield is good, 210 bushels at 450 price, then gross revenue of $945 minus 850 expenses equals $95 profit per acre. That's better already. On 200 acres, that's $19,000 profit. That's livable. But the key word here is optimization. You need to actually work on reducing costs, implement precision farming, work more efficiently. Just planting corn as usual and hoping for the best, that's the path to loss. So what's the answer to the main question? Does it make sense to grow corn in 2026? The answer is, it depends on you. If you're an average farmer with average expenses and average yield, no, it doesn't make sense. You'll end up in the red. If you're an efficient farmer who can keep costs below average and get yields above average, yes, you can make money, but not much. If you're an inefficient farmer with high costs and low yield, it's catastrophic. Don't touch it. Alternatives. Soybeans are slightly better, but also not great. Diversification, livestock plus crop farming, renting out land, or selling part of the land to close debts and work on a smaller area but more efficiently. The main thing, don't work by inertia. Don't plant corn just because you've always done it. Sit down with a calculator, count the real numbers for your farm, your expenses, your average yield, current prices, and make a decision based on numbers, not emotions and habit, and subscribe to the channel because I regularly do these breakdowns on different crops and farming directions. Good luck, and may your harvest be profitable.